Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to Chapter 5 of Social Studies. In this chapter, we're going to focus on the Southwest. Now, our project for this chapter that's going to be due at the end of the chapter is you're going to work to plan a TV show about what makes the Southwest one of a kind region of the United States. Write a description of what your show will be called and what it would be about. Tell the time period and the Southwest location of your show. Describe the characters and events that would take place on your TV show, create visuals to reflect the events and locations, and present your show idea to the class. So you need to choose a time period and a Southwest location. You're going to research events, geography, and climate from this time period. You're going to write a description of your show. So tell me about the characters, the time period, the location, and the events, what's going on in your show. You're going to pick a name for your show, and then you're going to add some visuals. So some pictures or drawings, any kind of illustrations to show and reflect the events of and the location of your show. So how does the Southwest reflect its diverse past and unique environment? In this chapter, you'll read about the environment of the Southwest. You'll read about how early people lived in the region and how the arrival of the Spanish affected their lives. You will also read why many settlers moved to the Southwest and about the industries that became important then and now. Finally, you'll examine how the Southwest provides a launching pad for science and discovery. So for lesson 1, we're going to focus on the landscape of the Southwest. Now, before we start on the actual lesson, we're going to go through our vocabulary pages, and we'll fill these in as we go along. So your words are going to be aerospace, annex, arroyo, butte, experiment, geometric, interstate, mission, presidio, and sovereign. Go through these and go through the check boxes, either mark know it, you've heard it, or you don't know it. And as we go through the lesson, you're going to go ahead and fill in the definitions for all of those words. Those are all going to be available, highlighted throughout the lesson with their meanings. So in this lesson, you're going to use your investigative skills to explore how the harsh environment of the Southwest was difficult for the early people who settled there. Reading and talking about the land and climate of the Southwest will help you learn about how early people adapted to their environment. Here we can see the dwellings that were built in the side of cliffs in the Southwest. So dwellings are homes. You can see these homes that are built right into the sides of these cliffs and mountains. As always, let's get started with the information in our blue bar. Look closely at the picture. What do you think this picture will be about? This page will be about. Circle the paws and the tail of the animal in the picture. Identify clues that tell you what animal is depicted in the picture. So which one is shown? Depicted is just another way to say shown. Is the animal calm or angry? Discuss your answer with a partner. Then reread, what does the text suggest about how petroglyphs were created? What mystery still surrounds these petroglyphs? Petroglyphs of the Southwest. Throughout the Southwest region, pictures called petroglyphs can be found on canyon walls and in caves. These drawings are of snakes, sheep, elk, and other interesting animals, shapes, and figures. Some were drawn as separate images, others were grouped together to create a scene. Ancient people chipped or ground them into the rock walls. Most historians believe a group called the Ancient Puebloans created them between AD 600 and AD 1200. However, some say the petroglyphs may have been carved as early as 300 BC. No one is exactly sure what the petroglyphs mean. They may be road signs that told travelers where to find water, or they may be historical records of ancient people. Historians are sure that petroglyphs are not just doodles because they took a long time to carve. Pecking, chipping, etching pictures into rock is difficult and careful work. Some of these carvings are very detailed. The artists had to be very skilled to create their art. In addition to petroglyphs, ancient paintings have been found in the Southwest. These paintings on rocks or other outdoor surfaces are called pictographs. Ancient people made paints from minerals, plants, or ashes. Most pictographs faded away a long time ago. Those that can still be seen are in caves and other places that are protected from the weather. Primary source. This mountain lion petroglyph was found in the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. So here we're going to focus on comparing and contrasting. So when we're looking for when we're comparing things, we're seeing how things are the same. And when we're looking for contrasting things, we're seeing how things are different. So read the text once all the way through. Look for key facts and details that show differences about the two topics. Look for key facts and details that show similarities about the topics. And then use key facts or details to compare and contrast the topics. So based on the text that you read, let's figure out some of the similarities and the differences between petroglyphs and pictographs. So one thing that's similar about them is that petroglyphs and pictographs are pictures of art or are pieces of art that we find on rock walls. The differences are petroglyphs are carved into the rock, but pictographs are painted onto the rock. So here we talked about things that make them the same and things that make them different. Now on the next page, we're going to read pages 242 to 251 in our textbook, and we're going to compare the Gulf coastal plain and the desert areas of the Southwest. For the top parts, we're going to find 3 similarities and 3 differences. And then we're going to compare the Hopi tribes and the Navajo tribes and see what they have in common, what are their similarities, and what are their differences. How did early people cope with the harsh environment of the Southwest? Harsh but beautiful. Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Arizona make up the regions known as the Southwest. Many landforms, such as deserts, mesas, plains, mountains, and plateaus, dot the landscape. The climate is mostly dry and hot, but snow and cold can come high in the mountains. From many early Native American groups to their descendants and other Southwest citizens today, the harsh environment and the wondrous landscapes of this region help define daily life. Today, many national parks celebrate the beauty of the Southwest. In Arizona, nearly 5 million people visit the Grand Canyon National Park every year. The Grand Canyon is a deep canyon formed by the Colorado River. Visitors can explore the park by hiking the trails, riding mules, or rafting down the river. The Petrified Forest National Park is also in Arizona. Visitors can hike along the Blue Mesa Trail to see wooden logs that were part of living trees 200 million years ago. Many dinosaur bones have been found at Big Bend National Park in Texas. Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico is known for its enormous caves over 100 surrounding caves. Water activities and waterfall attract visitors to the Chickasaw National Recreation Area in Oklahoma. Here we can see preserved logs that are more than 200,000 years old that fill the petrified forest in the national parks in Arizona. Southwest subregions. Deserts, plains, and plateaus break up the different parts of the Southwest. The Chihuahuan Desert is the largest in North America. Most of it lies in Mexico, but it extends north into Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Farther west, the Sonoran Desert covers southern Arizona, extending into Mexico and California. Turquoise, a mineral used in Native American jewelry, is a resource that comes from the deserts of the Southwest. The Gulf coastal plain circles the Gulf of Mexico. The eastern part is covered in grasses and wildflowers. The western half is mostly short grasses and small trees. These grasses are perfect for cattle population. Cotton and rice grow well here. The Great Plains is a flat, grassy area that receives little rain, so it has few trees. It extends from the Midwest and includes parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. The Great Plains is known for agriculture, oil, and natural gas. This landform in North Coyote Buttes of Paria Plateau, Arizona, is called the Wave. The Colorado Plateau is a large region that is higher than the surrounding land and mostly flat. The plateau starts at above 2,000 feet above sea level, rising higher with the mountains. Summers are hot, but winters can get cold. On the Colorado Plateau is Monument Valley, Arizona. Their mesas and buttes rise drastically out of the earth. Mesas are steep mountains with flat tops. When wind and rain wear away the sides of a mesa, thin towers of rock called buttes are formed. Lands shaped by water. The climate of the Southwest differs across the region. The Gulf Coast of Texas is hot and very humid. The mountain areas can be cold and snowy in the winter months, but mostly the Southwest is hot and dry. Most of Arizona and New Mexico is especially dry. Water is a scarce resource. There's very little rainfall in these states. When it does rain, it rains hard. The time when this region receives the most of its rain is called monsoon season. It starts in mid-June and lasts until the end of September. All the water rushes into dry riverbeds and stream beds. It also rushes through ditches called arroyos. Arroyos are formed by water over a long time. Each rainfall makes them deeper. The main source of fresh water for this region are the Colorado River and the Rio Grande. The Colorado River begins in the Rocky Mountains in the Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. It flows through the states of Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and California, and empties into the Gulf of California and Mexico. The Colorado River created the Grand Canyon. Over millions of years, the snow-fed river carved the canyon into Earth's surface. Today, the Colorado River flows about 280 miles stretch of the Grand Canyon. Mile-high walls of the Colorado rock in this walls of colored rock in the canyon tell the story of the Earth's geology. Each layer of colored minerals represents a time period. Some layers are volcanic rock from ancient eruptions. So let's pause for a second and take a look at our graphic organizer. So far what we've seen is that both areas have resources to help their community. And both areas have water resources so far. The coastal plains and the desert areas so far both have water resources. Now the plains so far we found out have more resources, such as oil. And we're going to go back and read so that we can find additional resources. Now we can also put something in the differences section. We can say that the Colorado River is the main water source for the desert, and the Gulf of Mexico is the main water source for the coastal plains. So now we have 2 for each section. Let's continue reading. The Colorado River was very important to early Native Americans. Many groups made their home on or near the river. The river is still home to many Native American groups. The Rio Grande begins in Colorado. It passes through New Mexico and Texas and ends in the Gulf of Mexico. In Texas, the Rio Grande forms the border between the United States and Mexico. Long ago, ancestral Puebloan people built 18 pueblos, or towns, on the Rio Grande in what is now called New Mexico. Some still live there today. The Hohokam lived in central and southern Arizona between 200 BC and AD 1450. They lived mostly along the Salt and Gila rivers. The Hohokam farmed maize, which is corn. They gathered wild beans and fruits for food. They also hunted. The Hohokam are known for building an important irrigation canal. They dug a 3-mile trench into the ground to carry water from the Gila River to their fields. They developed a series of connected canals for irrigating their crops or watering their crops. Today, people make dams to provide fresh water. They build hydroelectric plants on the rivers to make electricity. The rivers of the Southwest allow people to live in this dry region. Plants and animals of the Southwest. Desert ecosystems support plants and animal life. The Sonoran Desert has the greatest variety of plants of any desert in the world. About 560 different kinds of plants grow there. The saguaro cactus is the most recognized plant in the desert. This cactus has a central stalk and arms that grow out of its side. It can grow 40 feet tall. But cacti come in many shapes. The prickly pear looks like a flat paddle, and the golden barrel cactus looks like a round bulb. Desert cacti are typically covered with sharp spines. Coyotes and mountain lions roam the Sonoran Desert. They are always on the hunt for prey: jackrabbits, small deer, and squirrels. Over 260 types of birds can be found in this area during the year. Rattlesnakes, the desert tortoise, the giant Gila monster, and the tiger salamander also make their homes in this dry ecosystem. Forests grow in the mountainous areas of the Colorado Plateau. Most forests are in northern New Mexico and Arizona. Here, ponderosa pine, spruce, and aspen thrive. These plants can live in the cold winters and cool summers of the ecosystem. Black bears, bobcats, coyotes, and cougars make their home there as well. So here at the top, we can see the picture of the prickly pear cactus and how it has these flat kind of paddle type leaves. And then here in the picture underneath, this is a collared lizard that's sitting out in the sun. The Texas coastal plains is home to many plants and animal species. Ducks, songbirds, and geese migrate from Canada to spend their winters in the warmth. Tall grasses and wildflowers thrive inland because of the rainstorms that blow off the Gulf of Mexico. Turtle grass, cattails, and mangroves grow in the wetlands along the coast. Alligators, fiddler crabs, and sea turtles can also be found along the coast. Small cacti, such as the prickly pear, grow in this area, but not as many as in the desert. The Great Plains was once home to about 30 million bison, an animal early settlers called buffalo. The bison thrived on the prairie grasses of the Great Plains. Today, very few bison remain. They were hunted to near extinction by American buffalo hunters as the United States expanded west. Other animals, such as prairie dogs, ferrets, bobcats, red foxes, antelope, rattlesnakes, and hawks, still live here. Grasses as tall as 12 feet can be found in some parts of the Great Plains. Sagebrush, bushes, and buffalo grass are also common plants of this ecosystem. Today, people are working to protect the ecosystems of the Southwest. By protecting these habitats, the plants and animals here will flourish and for many years to come. So let's go ahead and fill in our last boxes here for the similarities and differences. We learned that both ecosystems, the plains and the desert, have a wide variety of plants and animals that live there. What's different about them is the desert is home to mostly cacti and grasses. Animals such as rattlesnakes and mountain lions live there. But for the coastal plains, they have many water plants and animals such as ducks, birds, and geese that come over there during the winter months. All right, next we're going to compare these two Native American groups, the Hopi and the Navajo. Early Native Americans, ancient Puebloans. Historians believe that the ancient Puebloan people were responsible for the cliff dwellings found throughout this region. These communities were complete towns with roads and irrigation systems. Eventually, the people left their cliffside homes and moved south, becoming known today as the Pueblo people, including the Hopi and other groups. Pueblo people. The Pueblo continued many of the traditions of their ancestors. They mixed the clay soil of the desert with straw and water to create a material called adobe. They used adobe bricks to build homes that could be many stories high. They irrigated the fields to grow different foods. Now, whenever you guys are seeing the words irrigated or irrigation, we're talking about a water system. So if they're irrigating their fields, that means they're watering their fields where they're growing plants or crops. The Pueblo also continued to make baskets and pottery. They were excellent wood carvers. Shells, turquoise, and furs decorated their clothing. They painted beautiful art on their walls and their pottery. Today, the Pueblo people are still known for their art. Many live in their own sovereign pueblos or towns in New Mexico and Arizona. Hopi people. The Hopi people are part of the Pueblo group. The word Hopi means peaceful ones. In the past, they built homes out of mud and stone, which kept their homes cool in the desert heat. They developed and grew 24 different kinds of corn and grew squash, beans, and pumpkins. The Hopi are still known for their pottery. The designs and the shape of each piece of pottery tell a story. Many Hopi live in the Hopi Reservation in northeast Arizona. Navajo people. Historians believe that the first Navajo were part of a group called the Athabascan. Many Athabascan came from what is now called Alaska and Canada. Some settled along the Pacific Ocean in Oregon and northern California, while others moved into Arizona and New Mexico. For hundreds of years, early Navajo gathered food and hunted herds that moved. They lived in homes called hogans, often made of wood and clay. After the Navajo came in contact with the Pueblo, they learned farming techniques from them. The Navajo then settled in one place. Today, there are 10 states, smaller in area than the Navajo Nation, a reservation in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. So let's go ahead and hop into our graphic organizer for a moment. Now we know that a similarity is that both groups lived in the Southwest, and both of them used the resources around them to help them to survive. We also know that that both groups used what they found in the earth to help build their homes. Now the differences is the Hopi were related to the Pueblo and the ancient Puebloans before them. The Navajo were part of a different group called the Athabascan group, and they came in from what is now known as Alaska and Canada. So that'll be their first difference. Now, another difference is that the Hopi were farmers, so they grew things like corn and squash and beans and fruit, just like we read on the other page. But the Navajo were hunters before they were hunters and gatherers before they were farmers, and then they learned farming techniques from the Hopi. And then the last thing that we can list here is that the Hopi made their homes out of bricks called adobe, and the Navajo made simple homes that were called hogans out of wood and sticks that they found in the earth. That takes us to the end of our reading. So now that we've completed our graphic organizers, let's go ahead and take a look at our writing sections. Now under Write About It, where it says Write and Cite Evidence. From what you read in this lesson, tell how Native Americans of the Southwest adapted to the region's unique environment. So here you want to think about how they lived in the Southwest, creative ways that they came up with to survive and to deal with the heat and not having enough water. What are some things that they did? How did they water or irrigate their crops? What did they use to build their homes? How did they try and keep their homes cool? And so on. So use a lot of examples. Go back to your text. There's a lot of information there that you can pull from. And then under where it says connect to the essential question, pull it together. How does the Southwest region's environment make it unique? So here, think about how the type of environment that they have, that it's mostly hot and dry. You can describe different features, different animals, how those animals have adapted to live, how the different Native American tribes and people adapted to live in those areas. Once you're done with that, make sure you go back and reread your writing, check your spelling and grammar, check your sentence structure, make sure you're using punctuation and capitalizing where you need to. That takes us to the end of this lesson. If you guys have any questions, let me know, 4th grade. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.